Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this great presentation from Lisa Evelyn, who is the owner and CEO of White Picket Fence Accounting and Taxation Services. Lisa's been a partner of CCSAI for a number of years now, having gone to Centennial for her program of choice. And so we've enjoyed working with her. It's got to be, what, about 10 years now, maybe even more, Lisa?
Yes, it is, Tony.
And like I said, Lisa is a great friend of the CCSAI and Centennial College. She gives back to the college as well in the form of some scholarships throughout the year as well that go directly to students. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. I do ask you to hold your questions until the end, and we will do a little question and answer period at the end of the presentation. So Lisa, it's all you.
Thank you very much, Tony, for that introduction. And I'd like to thank you and the CCSAI for having me. Today, we're going to talk about student income tax returns and considerations. And we're going to go through pretty much most of the topics that any students would have questions on. So feel free to take notes so that you can make sure that you've got the information that you need when it comes time to file your taxes. So who has to file an income tax return? Okay, you must file an income tax return if you owe income tax or if you want to claim an income tax refund. If you do not file a return, the CRA will not initiate a return for you. Therefore, they will not know that you need to get your refund that they owe you from the income tax that was deducted from your paychecks. So who does need to file a return? All residents of Canada on December 31st of any given year are expected to file an income tax return in the year, even when you came to Canada as well. And if you are eligible for a refund, you will be paid by check or direct deposit into the receiver's bank account. So the receiver being you, receiving the income, the money. It is best to meet with a tax consultant who can help you process your income tax return and assist you with obtaining the maximum benefit from your return. Why should you file a tax return? If you are a resident or an international student who is here on a study permit and residing in Canada temporarily, you may be eligible for certain payments or credits. To qualify, you must file an income tax return. All Canadian residents as of December 31st of any given year must also file an income tax return. And that will also help international students when you go for your permanent residency. So they're going to have that expectation from you that you have filed back to the time that you first arrived into Canada, and you will be up to date at that point if that's what you're doing. So when is the filing due date? Generally, your income tax return must be filed on or before April 30th of the following year for which the return is being filed. So we always file income tax here in Canada from March 1st to April 30th. That is the tax season, and it's for the prior year. If you're filing outside of April 30th, that is not the tax season, you can still file. And I always recommend, if you haven't filed for the year before, you get it in as soon as possible. So do not wait until the following year to file that return. You get that return filed so that you can get the credits and the money that you're entitled to. There is no point in the government holding on to money that should be in your pocket and them collecting interest on it. So if you owe income tax and you file your return late, you will be respectively charged a late filing fee and any penalty and interest on any amounts that are owed. I think I passed one. No. Okay, so other important information that you need. Obviously, we need your social insurance number and your notice of assessment from a previous tax year. If you are a resident of Canada and you have filed a prior return, we would want you to bring your banking information so that you can get direct deposit. Your money goes directly into your bank account. For international students, we'd like to know your date of arrival or have your passport available so that we can check that for you. The amount of world income that you earned in your home country the year you came to Canada is something else we'll need to know. We don't need proof of that. We just need to know what that figure is converted to CAD. And then what are the most types of income for students? Well, you might have worked, you might have had a part-time job or even a full-time job prior to going to school. You might have scholarships, bursaries, or an RESP from growing up here in Canada. You may have employment insurance benefits if you were off work, workers' compensation benefits if you were injured on the job. If you were on social services, you received the universal childcare benefit, which is something that is in the past. However, if you're filing a late return, that is possibly something you could need. Any investment income, trust income, RRSP income for our Canadians or our residents here, foreign income, capital gains, and any business or professional income. So if you were doing an Uber to compensate your income, we would need your Uber tax summary and you would be considered self-employed for that. What are the most common types of deductions? Well, you have, for students, you may have union dues, you may have donations, RSP contributions, but the major one for you is going to be your tuition slip. So your T2202A that the college provides you on their website, so that you can bring that to file your tax. Now, that tuition slip, we're going to talk a little bit more about it later and how that actually impacts your return and what you will receive from that. So your student loan interest, if you paid a student loan, if you've made payments back to your student loan here in Canada, they will issue you a slip stating how much interest you've paid. You have medical expenses, childcare expenses, allowable employment expenses with that you qualify for, provided you have the proper forms from your employer, and then any capital losses that you might have to put against your capital gains. And then what documents do you need to file your taxes? All relevant documents refer to the types of income and the types of deductions listed above. So any T-slip you receive from your employer and financial institution. If it's something you're not sure of, I recommend that you consult with your accountant and find out, because it may be something that you can deduct. And if it's not, well, then how long should I retain the document relevant to my income tax return? Retain all documents relating to your income tax return for at least 7 years in case you are asked to provide that information later. What documents do you need? Oh, this is the If I work part-time for an employer, do I need to report that on my income tax return? Yes, your employer will issue you a T4 slip for the year that you work there. All world income is to be reported on their tax returns every year. So what happens to your tuition credits when you file your taxes? That's what a lot of the questions that we get in regards to students and their tuition, right? What happens to those tuition credits? Or why am I not getting any money back? Because I just filed my taxes and I'm not getting my tuition money that I paid back. So how it works is they are non-refundable tax credits that allow students to reduce their income tax liability. That income tax liability may not be in the year you go to school because you don't have a lot of income. That income tax liability is going to come up in the future when you're having your full-time job or you're working more or you start working. Your tuition credits, they are accumulated over the years. And when you enter into the workforce and are having income tax deducted, we then use those credits to get you the income tax deducted from your paychecks. And then to find your tuition slip, you would go to the My Centennial account. And that's, I believe, where you would still go. That's pretty old information, but I believe that's where you still go. And if you are married and your spouse did not work last year, do they need to file an income tax return? A lot of people assume that they don't need to file an income tax return if they did not work last year. But here in Canada, everybody needs to file an income tax return every year. It's the law. And the benefit to that for you is they will provide you with some credits if you are low income. And if you are not low income and you owe them income tax, you would want to file that return immediately regardless, to avoid penalties and interest. So if you are married and you have a spouse who is not working, yes, they do need to file an income tax return for you to receive your GST credit and your Ontario Trillium benefit and your Canada Child Tax benefits as well, should you have any dependent children. So you must let the CRA know that they did not have any income, because those credits are income based. So they are going to be based off of your income as a family if you have a spouse. Okay, so no matter where in the world your spouse lives, you must also report their income on your return as well. The government needs to know where your spouse is, how much income they earn to base those credits on, because your spouse can support you from anywhere in the world. What is the GST credit? So the GST credit is a non-taxable quarterly payment that helps individuals and families with low incomes offset all or part of the goods and service taxes that they pay when they purchase goods. So we're out there buying our needs and we're paying income, or we're paying GST on those items. And this is what the government is issuing a credit for, to help you to compensate for those taxes paid because your income is not over a certain threshold. You may qualify for the GST credit after you arrive in Canada if you are considered a resident of Canada for tax purpose. You will automatically be considered for the GST credit when you file your return. The CRA will determine your eligibility. The payment schedule for the GST credit is quarterly, beginning in July, October, January, and April on the 5th of each month. The Ontario Trillium benefit. So this is another reason you would want to file your income tax return. So this actually combines the Ontario sales tax credit, Ontario energy, and the property tax credit. When claiming your rent, you must be able to provide a rent receipt to the CRA if they request it. This receipt must come from your landlord. The payment schedule for the Ontario Trillium benefit is the 10th of each month, provided the total amount owed to you for the year is greater than $360. Annual credits that are less than $360 will be paid out in a lump sum, normally in July after you're filing the taxes for the previous year. Claiming rent when you do not have a receipt will result in you repaying the government with the money you receive for the benefit. If the government asks you for a copy of that receipt and you're not able to provide it, they will expect you to pay that money back. So you always want to make sure you can get that receipt from your landlord, just to make sure that you can satisfy the CRA should they require that information. So how do you apply for the GST credit and Ontario Trillium benefit? Well, when you file your income tax return, we make that application for you, and therefore you automatically should qualify. So when do you qualify for them? You may qualify for the credits when you become a resident. However, you will have to file an income tax return for the year that you arrived. So you would also want to do that for the purpose of GST, right? And if you arrived late in the year, you would file in March of the following year, because you would still qualify, provided you arrived in Canada before December 31st, 11:59 p.m. You would qualify. So at anybody that came into the country in December, on December 31st, was still qualified to file that return. So what is the Canada Child Benefit? You may have a dependent child, and the Canada Child Benefit is a tax-free monthly payment made to eligible families to help raise with the raising of your children under the years of 18. So the application for the Canada Child Benefit is also made on your income tax return, and that is paid out on the 20th each month. Now, another item that might be good for the international students who may have children here, you actually would qualify after you've been in Canada for 18 months, and we put in an application for you. So if help is needed in that regard, you would just let us know that as well. So do you have to let the Canada Revenue Agency know that you're going to move, or that you have moved, actually? Because you always want to let them know as soon as you move that you've moved. They always need to know where you live for you to receive your benefits. If your mail is returned to them, they will stop your payments until you contact them with your new address. And you might not understand why your money stopped. If you move and you don't notify them, they find out otherwise, they will stop the payments until you actually update your information with them, at which time they will provide you with the funds that they owe to you. But there's no reason that you would want to be out of your money unnecessarily in case you have certain obligations to meet, right? So it's always great to keep your information up to date with the CRA. And what the CCSAI has provided for the Centennial College students is a one-time $10 subsidy towards your current income tax returns, your 2021 income tax returns. So anybody needing assistance with that can always let us know by the ways of email. So we'll go to the next slide, which has our information for you to contact us. So you can send all inquiries to our team. We're on Ajax, our office is in Ajax. Our email address is info@wpftax.ca. You can give us a call at 647-762-5143. From there, we're going to set you up with our secure portal. Your secure portal is the place where you're going to upload your documents into, and then we are going to upload your return, your information into the portal for you to access into DocuSign. So that's a little bit of how the process works with us. We welcome all students to come and file your taxes. And if you have any questions, I am very happy to, I think we can begin with questions if you're okay with that, Tony. And again, thank you to you and to the CCSAI and everyone, Centennial College.
Yeah, okay. So we can do this one of two ways. I think maybe the chat might be the easiest, if that's okay with you, Lisa, and then I could read the questions. And we do have one question from Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah, I think, joined us a few minutes late, so you may have touched on this and we may have missed it.
Okay.
Sarah would like to know if you could speak to the Welcome Canada bonus. She came in January of this year on the 12th, and she's wondering if she's eligible to get that.
Okay, well, there is really no such thing as the Welcome to Canada bonus. There are what is being marketed as that is the GST and the Trillium credits. So there is no such thing as the Welcome to Canada bonus. Again, it is simply the GST credit, the Trillium benefit that you're entitled to. If you came into Canada in January of 2022, there is an application that you can make not through your tax return. So again, if you'd like to contact us, call right ahead and we can help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any other questions?
And, I have one more question. Like, can I proceed?
Of course, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard that I have paid my tuition fees last September 2020.
Okay.
So
Okay.
some of my friends told that we can even file tax on that. What about that?
Okay, so how your tuition credits work is they are non-refundable tax credits. So you still want to file an income, you're going to have to file the income tax return for that year. So there's no point in waiting because it is also going to qualify you for the credits. But what happens with your tuition is your tuition credits are going to carry forward. Now, the reason for that is because when you were a student, you haven't worked enough or you haven't earned enough to pay enough tax to actually use them. So those tuition credits are going to carry forward for the years that you're in college and you're going and you're doing your studies. Then when you get out of college, unless you're working in between, which means you're really working hard because you're working hard at both. But the big thing there is you have to be paying income tax. So if you're not working, more than likely you're not paying income tax and we can't use your credits. But those credits are they're going to carry forward. They're going to accumulate over the years. When you start working, we're going to then take those credits. We're going to put them towards your income tax return at that time, and you're going to receive the benefit of your tuition credits then. Because what will happen is you will have had the income tax deducted from your paychecks, and now we're going to put in that application for you to get some of that money back using some of those tuition credits, if not all. Okay, and those tuition credits, they, especially for the international students, because you do pay quite a bit for your your tuition, what happens is you have a lot to carry forward. So you tend to have a few years with larger refunds. So that is a great benefit to you. So you do want to make sure you file those returns. You're getting your GST credit, your Trillium benefit on time when you need them, because now is the time that you actually need to use that money. As students, you don't have much money in the way of your abilities to focus on a job when you need to be studying. So any other questions then?
We do have one more question right now. We have a question from Yash, who wants to know if we have freelancing income till the 31st of December 2020, what do we have to do? Give an income summary, or what would they do in that instance?
Okay, it's just, I think it kind of depends what kind of income. So it's just freelance income where he's invoicing his client, and we would have to declare that as self-employment income. Depending on how much it is, would he maybe have to pay CPP on that income? He would have to report any expenses that he might had against that income to help reduce the tax liability. Chances are, if he doesn't have a lot of income, there's really not going to be a lot of income tax owed, if any, for it. So I think the best thing that he can do is just consult with a tax professional to find out exactly where he's at with, what the final results will be. If it's a 2020 income tax return, you can still file that at any time. And I always recommend, if you haven't filed because you weren't sure, it's always best that you file on time, even if you did owe the CRA, because they will penalize you for late filing, and then will also penalize you for interest on any amounts owed over the time. So if you can always avoid the late filing fee by filing on time, regardless of whether you owe or you're receiving a refund. Okay, I always recommend that. There's no point, if you did owe, that you would pay two penalties if you weren't able to pay the income tax due right away. So always recommend you file your taxes returns on time, but you can always get caught up at any time as well. So good job to you. That's a great question. A lot of students do have little freelances because you're also out there trying to determine and path your way. So there's also Uber expenses. There's there's photography. There's a lot of the creative arts students too. They have a lot of little side gigs that they're doing, just trying to learn their craft. So they will have technically expenses that they can put against that income. So always good to include that on your tax return.
Okay, thank you. And Adita has a question with regard to GST credits, excuse me. Are they a set amount, or do they vary person to person?
Well, they do vary person to person. They are within a certain threshold. They issue a certain amount of money, and where your income lands you is what the basic amount is what you can receive. So the basic amount, there's a threshold involved, and it's about 30,000. So when you start getting over that threshold, then they start deducting gradually. You start reducing the amount of money that you're entitled to. And it's about 40,000, I believe, for the rent portion. When you start reaching that income bracket, those credits start to go away. So up until that, they are income based, but low income, you're going to get a portion. You're not going to get a reduced portion. You're going to get what you are entitled to.
Okay.
And then again, for the Trillium, I'll just address that. The Trillium, if you are not claiming rent, you will receive your payment in a one lump sum payment in July. If you are claiming rent, those payments will be stretched over the course of the year on the 10th of the month. So by claiming your rent and having a landlord that will give you a rent receipt, it really will help you have a little bit of extra money every month. And then of course the GST credit, back to that, is quarterly. So money in your pocket throughout the year. Typically the students are walking away with at least about $500 in credits that you'll receive over the year. And that's $500 that you didn't have otherwise. So great idea to file that return to make sure you can get that money.
Thank you. Could you, I don't have another question yet, but this might generate a question. Could you maybe just speak, Lisa, just briefly to the couple different ways, and again, I apologize if I missed it. I did have my head down for a minute. The couple different ways that you or other tax preparers, or even if I'm doing my own taxes, the different methods that taxes can be filed, whether it's online or paper, or maybe just like a little bit of information with regard to those couple of things. I know, you know, especially with young people, Lisa, and I'm sure you see this all the time. It can be very intimidating. If you add to that, you know, you don't have anybody supporting you, or you're an international student, and you know, people get a little bit scared. It's the government. So a lot of the things you've mentioned today, I think, speak a lot to taking the weight off of some of those things, and maybe just a little bit to the different scenarios can go a long way to help taking that kind of fear, you know, the government filing taxes away as well, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. So I, of course, recommend a tax professional first and foremost. There are other ways that you can file your tax. There is free online, I believe there's, well, you can buy the tax software, say TurboTax, which you're going to pay for the software. I'm really not familiar with all of the free ones, but the free ones that you do use, I just want to reiterate, the biggest thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you include your tuition slip. I don't want you to think that because you're going to school this year and you, or for any reason, you omit putting your tuition slip on it. That's my biggest takeaway if you're going to file your return on your own, just to make sure you include that. If you can always pick up the phone and contact the CRA. They are great to help you resolve your tax issues. If you do have questions, of course, you can always contact our office as well. We're always happy to help if you have any questions, especially the Centennial College students. So don't ever hesitate to call my office. Tax time, we're really, really busy, but I mean, that's, you just, if you can deal with waiting, you will get a response, you will get your answer. And then there's paper filing. Now, I believe Canadians that paper file a return, so you manually do the return yourself through the booklet that the CRA provides. The CRA has stopped issuing those booklets. So I really do believe that they're only people who have paper filed in the past are actually getting those booklets mailed to them, or perhaps you could contact them and ask them to get that booklet mailed to you. And then you could manually do your tax return on your own. Again, I recommend you don't forget your tuition slip, and you make sure that, you know, you try to do your best to make sure everything is correct, just so that you don't have any delays in receiving your money. But again, that's always a possible way for you to file. You've got, I know H&R Block has a free tax return software. Maybe TurboTax does too. I'm not quite sure what they are. I'm aware too that the college right now has a CRA volunteer tax clinic, which is great because you can get into the college and have the business students, I believe it is, help assist you with filing those returns. And then you can also get one-on-one service I provide. Is that correct, Tony?
Not that I'm aware of, but I could be wrong. I know last year we tried to put one of those community volunteering tax programs together, and we did reach out to those students to get volunteers, and I got one volunteer that didn't have. We do have that information where students can look in the immediate area of ones that may be around and how to find one of those clinics.
Yes, in the community. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's, yeah. So you can always go to those free community clinics. Those community clinics will accept you provided your return is not too complex. So if you're just a new student, there's no reason why they shouldn't accept you for your income tax return. And then, well, in regards to any questions that the Centennial students have, if you don't have your income tax clinic right on site there, please feel free to contact us with anything you have, or even send us an email. Email's great too, because then we can respond the best that we can with the best information, and we can reply to you with possible, like, information actually, then better than what we could provide to you over the telephone. So email, I think, is always best for that. But anyhow you want to reach out to us, that's great as well.
Okay, I believe there might have been 1 or 2 people that joined late. So just for your information, we will probably post this in the next few days once we just go over the content and make sure there's no editing or anything that needs to be
Yeah.
done. However, if you have any direct questions or things that were on your mind, we'll give it another minute or two. If anybody has another question, or if anything Lisa has spoken to has piqued a question in your mind, we'll give you the opportunity to still ask that question if you like. No questions?
Well, again, any questions that you do have can be sent to us, for anybody viewing this outside of the webinar as well. So we welcome your questions. We look forward to serving you. We appreciate all the hard work that you put in with your studies. We are grateful for our partnership with Centennial College and the CCSAI, and we look forward to serving you in the future.
Okay, on behalf of Centennial College Student Association Incorporated, I'd like to thank Lisa for joining us today and all the great years we've been enjoying this partnership. And again, just a reminder, if you do choose to use White Picket Fence Accounting Services, there is a one-time $10 subsidy off of the cost of the tax preparation at this time. So with that, thank you very much for joining us, and have a great weekend, everyone.